Now, we'd like to talk a little bit about your politics. Well, anything that's owned by those 5 families. We call them 5 families, some call them 13. But in your politics, what you've been seeing and witnessing is a takeover. We can talk about this Obama. Why the shift? Why the change? Perhaps it's no longer Obama, who you thought you knew. We could say the same for this Tony Blair also. Many of your politicians go into the White House and Camp David as one person, come out as another. They are not who they originally were, which is why the change. It's very easy for them to be also blackmailed, influenced, threatened. So that the dark agenda that lies within the government systems of financial, religion, etc., can maintain control. It's not just in politics that you have this situation. There has been an invasion of consciousness within the 5 families. So you have it in the political arena, the financial arena, the medical science, religion, education. And as you will see, quite some years ago we spoke about those families. We believe it was in around about the year 2002. Mm-hmm. And we suggested that those families were beginning to unite together. Rather than being separate and running their own show, they would begin to communicate with each other more strongly and join together as a collective, so that together they would be a more powerful, stronger force to control the masses. And you've seen this happen. And what you're seeing unraveling is that money has controlled everything. Religion, science, medicine, politics, it controls everything. It is the most corrupted frequency on the planet at this moment. And people do anything for the mighty dollar, whatever denomination that is. So you have women and children being sold for the dollar, people turned into drug addicts for the dollar, people being evicted from their homes for the dollar, people's work being reduced for the dollar, people's standard of living being reduced for the dollar. You have religions around the world that are worth billions, yet you still have world poverty, even though they profess to be working towards world poverty and helping the poor. They're not. They're helping themselves. So what you're going to see is more and more truth coming out about what's really going on. And some of that truth is very confronting for a lot of individuals. Particularly, let's say you work in medical field and you honestly go into that work with a love and devotion to mankind. So it is your wanting to heal others, wanting to care for others, wanting to help others is the reason that you go into that. And then you discover that perhaps what you're doing what you're prescribing, what you're helping them with, is actually making them worse. And then you discover that the reason for this is because someone is making a lot of money out of it. However, you cannot get out of your situation because you now have a house, you have a family, you have people reliant upon you, a business where you're employing people, etc. So you cannot afford to think too much about the truth. Because if you do, you would know that you're actually part of the problem and not part of the solution. So that's why you find a lot of people being extremely ignorant or pleading ignorance, wanting to be ignorant actually, so they don't have to be held accountable for what they're participating in. This is all going to come out into the surface, and those that are participating in it will surely regret it. Many have lost their lives by exposing it. Many have lost family members by exposing it, money by exposing it. They've lost a lot. And that's just in the medical. You can't even imagine what's going on in the political arena. So in the political arena, you have companies running politics. Pass this law so that we can pollute the rivers, the oceans, the air, the ground. Pass this law so that we can pollute the people with our chemicals. Pass this law so that we can eradicate high wages. And the governments are bending to their will because they're being either blackmailed or replaced. And this is a subject that is getting a little bit of, airplay. It's being heard a little bit more by more people. But because the consciousness wants to believe at its core in goodness, wants to believe that the government is working on their behalf, wants to believe in the goodness of others, most people cannot comprehend. It's not necessarily that they're in denial or that they're practicing ignorance. It's because they cannot, in their mind, comprehend that another would do that, deliberately do that. And so they are, if we could say, judging, looking at, projecting onto, whatever words you want to use, onto those politicians who they are themselves. So they would never act like that. We're talking about the common people. So therefore, why would the government act like that? Why would they do it? Why would the government pass laws to pollute your skies? Why would they do it? Why would they give permission for this to happen? Because their own sky is being polluted. But their reasoning is, well, I have enough money to have ionizers and create my own air, have my own bunker, grow my own food, yeah? So I have enough money to be exclusive and look after myself and my family. And part of the reason they do that is because they're being blackmailed. And they're being blackmailed because, well, let's take even Obama, for instance. Obama wasn't originally a bad person or anything like that, but Obama is not necessarily the Obama that went into politics. And many would go into politics as the perfect person. It really requires a person to be ethical, loving and kind, honest, integral, perfect in some way. So they have to have the wife, they have to have the children, they have to have the perfect home, the perfect belief system, the perfect conduct. When in reality, the person could be a homosexual. or a cross-dresser. Maybe that's what they like. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. They could be perfect in this. But because the society in itself says there's something wrong with that, they then hide it. And when they hide it, they're easily blackmailed into doing things, signing things, putting things through that wouldn't necessarily get put through. Now, there's talk of the Clintons being pedophiles and Obama being a pedophile. Obama's not a pedophile. However, like many politicians, they may not be that way, but they are drugged, they are drunk, photos are taken, they are blackmailed. It doesn't mean that it's true. So you have agendas within all systems steering them with the essence of greed and separation, of enslavery. So who originally wanted to enslave planet Earth? The Draconians. You'll find that the Draconians are behind most of this. And, you know, out there in the universe are many different forms of life. And most of those forms of life, majority of them, want to live in peace with the other forms of life. They understand harmony. They understand cause and effect. They understand how the universe works quite well. So they are not wanting to invade another planet. They may want to help another planet, but they don't want to invade it. But then there are a few, like there are a few on the planet, that wish to enslave, to control, to dominate. That's the difficulty. Most individuals that reside on planet Earth want peace. They want to be able to feed and clothe their children, educate them, to have their own little piece of land where they can have peace, where they can live in harmony, where they are friendly with the people around them. Most want that. It's just, if you like, well, it's more than a handful, but there are a number, but they're small compared to the world's population that want otherwise and have deliberately gone about to create another system. And if you look from, from 2012, that has sped up and been more and more exposed than it ever has. The truth we're talking about here, the darkness, what's going on underneath. It's getting more and more exposed in religion, in politics, in science, in education, in everything. It's getting more and more exposed. And the reason it's getting more and more exposed is because the collective consciousness wants peace. The collective wants harmony. The collective wants to have a meal at the end of the day. Clean water, clean air. That's what the majority of the people want. And because the majority of the people want that, and as you move more into the fifth being grounded in the consciousness of all, you'll find more and more darkness will be exposed. What you choose to do as a planet with that darkness is entirely up to you. At the moment, you've got a situation with a nuclear component in it politically. And that nuclear component, a lot are very fearful around that, but we can tell you it's not going to happen. We said this a very long time ago. If there is an honest threat of nuclear weapons being activated on Earth, there will be an intervention from your star friends. And should that intervention happen, those that are residing, the humans that are residing on planet Earth, will no longer be entitled to free will for a period of time. Doesn't mean forever, but for a period of time, their will be taken away from them. Simply because Earth is a divine experiment of many different life forms within the universe. It is a unique combination of life. And that unique combination is very precious. A lot of planets, interdimensional beings, energy forms are invested in Earth. And some of them are planets that are no longer in existence because of their own turmoil. And a little piece of them has been continuing on Earth. So there is an investment that Earth remain in good stead, healthy, happy, abundant in its life forms. In the time of Atlantis, that was sound and nuclear, and you science of discovering that, actually. And at the time, let's just say that the universe was unprepared for what happened, wasn't calculated. Now it has contingencies there to prevent it from happening. So the consciousness of the planet doesn't want it to happen. In the time of Atlantis, the world population was not so huge, wasn't very big, but you'll notice that it's increased dramatically. And the reason for that is because a lot of star people, a lot of interdimensional beings have decided to incarnate on Earth as representatives of all the different life forms on Earth to help, to assist, to preserve. And that's a very big thing that's happening. That's why your population's so big. Mm-hmm. But in saying that, it doesn't mean that the majority of them have come to battle it out or, to take over. No, they haven't. They've come to live in harmony and to represent harmony. They've come to allow their vibration to be of assistance to the unification of Earth within the universe and the evolutionary movement forward of humankind. If you were to look at it broadly, we would say it's we've spoken about sometimes the percentage of interdimensional light beings that are present on the Earth. It's a very small percentage compared to the other beings that are present on the Earth. And it's the same with draconian, zetas, all of those star beings that are negative. It's not a large percentage. It simply is that they have taken the prime positions through blackmail and money, and they are governing from that, which is why the financial system keeps crashing periodically. It will have another crash because it's being held up with sticky tape. So there will be another fall, but it won't be many people will be prepared for it. Okay, if we can point it out like this. In the one in 2008, it was the people that actually suffered the brunt of it, correct? It wasn't the banks or the people that created it. Mm-hmm. It was the common people. We'll use that term, the common people. The average person actually paid back all that debt, and their lives were made, they became more enslaved. That was the whole reason for it happening. However, next time it happens, it will not be the average person that will pay it. Mm-hmm. So their lives will not change so much. It's the people who created it that will crash. Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't be afraid of the crash. Embrace it, because it won't affect the average person. It will only affect those that have created it in the first place to disempower, to enslave others. So start to think about how your life can be abundant, not through finances per se, but through owning your own home, your own vehicle, not being in debt. Yeah.
Mm. Do you think this spread will happen in 2018?
No. Mm-hmm. It will probably happen next year. Mm-hmm. This year is more about exposing everything. And, we also spoke about some time ago that, you'd start to manifest a lot faster, mm-hmm. as happening already. Yeah. So the moment you go into confusion, everything that you want to manifest stops. Yeah. The moment you go into doubt, it stops. The moment you get clarity again and you place some energy into it with that clarity and intention, it will move forward. Mm-hmm. But the moment you doubt, if you have a conversation with someone and you tell them what your plans are and they feel it's a bad idea, well, that can dampen your timeline, mm-hmm. and your ability to manifest. So it's also important to have the people around you who are going to support, even if they think it's bad, mm-hmm. that are going to support your vision, your concept of what the future is for you. Everyone has their own concept. For some, it's a few chickens in the front yard, a patch of green, and a roof over their head. Yeah. For others, it's living in a mansion by the beach, driving a nice fancy car. For others, it's living in a high-rise. Yeah, just depends. Some it's in the mountains. Everyone has their own way in which they wish to live that resonates with them. That may have something to do with where they originally come from also. You will find that the frequency of politics is in flux, because you have some people coming in that want to be honest and integral, and you have those that are already in that want to hold the status quo. If you look at the Prime Minister of Australia, mm-hmm. is heavily invested in pharmaceuticals, financially invested. His wife is a chairperson of a major pharmaceutical company, and then he brings an agenda of if you don't vaccinate, you don't go to school, or you don't get a certain amount of money. That is in complete conflict with being a politician for the people, isn't it? It's a complete conflict, and we are surprised that there hasn't been more of an outrage that he and his wife, because of the conflict, should forego their business in that field. You're either a politician or you're not. This one is not. This one is clearly a finance man. And most of the finance is for himself and those very closely around him. So more will come out about that sort of behaviour. Mm. When, a lot of people are very troubled about this Mr. Trump. Mm. he gets information that isn't always correct also. He is also manipulated at times with regards to things. The only thing we would say about that is when you have someone who isn't a politician and doesn't play the same manipulative games and courtesies that politicians do between each other, but then do something else behind each other's backs. He doesn't do that because he's not coming from that background. So you can be assured that what he says, he's being honest about. So you may have another one saying, well, I honestly want to, help the working class. But in honesty, that's not their intention at all. Oh, we're definitely not bringing in that tax. But in honesty, they do as soon as they get in. You see? So they're not telling the truth. What we can say about this Trump is he tells the truth. It may not be pretty. It may not be what people want to hear. And he's very flamboyant in his expression. And that can be very confronting for most. So the only thing we can say is that you would be getting the truth, even if you don't like it. Mm-hmm. But what he's doing is creating a new vibration in politics where a politician isn't at the helm. And we spoke about this some time ago, that eventually you would have collectives. And in those collectives, you would have a person who represents education, not ministers, an actual teacher, not a minister that studied politics and then became the Minister for Education but actually doesn't know what it is to be a teacher. Or the Minister for Health not having any idea what it takes to run a hospital or to be beside sick people or have any compassion in that area. Did not devote their lives, like many doctors do, or health practitioners, to the well-being of others. So this is someone who's just trained in politics and suddenly becomes the Minister for Health. If you look at it in a common sense manner, you would say, well, that was a really stupid thing to do, right? So eventually you will have these sort of round tables, a bit like the fable of Arthur and the round table, where representatives of that field who have been voted in by the people within that field will speak on their behalf.
And when do you think this is coming?
Well, we believe probably 2026, around that time. We've spoken about that in between now and then being quite tumultuous and things having to go up and down a little and be exposed and unpleasant.
And what would you say about negotiations about Brexit in this year?
Well, they still do not want them to leave. So we would say drawn out. A lot of fussiness, a lot of games, a lot of manipulation. Yeah. We don't see it as being an easy thing. For that reason. You see, you have, if we were to go in it like this, you have America and England as the two powerhouses. Both are vying for Europe in some way. Europe has aligned a lot with America. So England decides we don't want to have anything to do with that. We'll remove ourselves. Even though they still govern most of Europe financially. You could say it's a battle of darkness against each other. You know, it's like one tribe against the other tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Australia has aligned with America. It was aligned with England. Now it's very much aligned with America.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to become a republic so that they can be more like America, which would be the downfall of Australia. What people don't realise is their healthcare will go, their education system will change, their taxation system will also change. It won't be as prosperous as it has been under the Commonwealth. England's foundation, in a lot of ways, was born on integrity, a man's word. Yeah, they're very strong on a man's word. America, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So if America gives its word to Australia, we will protect you if anyone tries to invade you, it actually won't do that. England will. So it's a sort of complicated situation there. And you know, we were talking about how you as an individual are becoming unity consciousness, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And that your mind, your body, and your soul are becoming aligned with the earth and the universe, yeah? Mm-hmm. Which means your timelines are getting cleaned up. So past lives, ancestral lines, all of these things are coming to the surface so you can clean them. So in this moment in time, you're clear. Because most of the time, most of the people are operating from their past.
Yeah.
And the fear of the future. So they're not actually in this moment. And to be in unity consciousness, you must be in this moment, which means that all your past lives, all your interlives, lives on other planets even, yeah, it's to do with your entire soul's journey, is coming to the surface, and the ancestral lines, what your parents have held. Mm-hmm. It's the same with the earth, right? So think about this for just a moment. This earth has been going for billions of years, and yeah, in your history, you can go back about 150,000 years of mankind. But actually, it goes back further than that. Now, even if we just took 150,000 years, it's a lot of years, isn't it? It's a lot of lifetimes. And in each one of those lifetimes, there's been war. It may not be a big war. It could be a tribal war, a war between countries or tribes. Look at the Mongolians, even the Aboriginals fought amongst tribes. The New Zealanders, the Islanders, they all fought amongst tribes. They'd go and kill people, take the women back to where they need more women. Off they'd go, do a raid, take some women back. So on the earth are buried billions of bodies, billions of bones. On the earth is the history of pain, suffering, anger, fear, great fear, longing. There's a lot in the earth. And that has been layered upon itself. You are still finding ancient cities deep in the ground, deep in the water. Oh, it's a miracle we found this ancient city. Well, underneath that ancient city is probably another one with more bones. So the resonance of the earth is shifting as well. So all the pain, all the struggle, the survival, the fear the anger. It needs to come to the surface and be cleared as well. And when it does, say you're residing in a place where there's been a lot of killing going on, could be you suddenly start to feel very angry or fearful or anxious or depressed or, something like this. Clear the land. Release those souls. Give them peace. Bring peace to the land. The land is actually echoing the consciousness. So if the consciousness has fear, pain, anger, well, you're going to have storms. You're going to have people can say, oh, it's what are you calling it? Global warming. It's pollution. But what consciousness created the pollution? So it's actually to do with consciousness. It's not Mother Earth's. You, as a consciousness, can clear out that from Mother Earth, protect Mother Earth, value, respect, honor, heal Earth. If the consciousness wants clean air, you'll have clean air. If the collective consciousness wants clean water, you'll have clean water. But that collective consciousness is not just the consciousness of the over 7 billion that are currently on the earth. It's the consciousness of every soul that's ever resided on the earth. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a collective. Just as you are becoming unity, so is Earth becoming unity with the universe. You see, that astral plane that was created at the time of Atlantis is now getting thinner and thinner. And we've spoken about these veils getting thinner and thinner. And so as it does, more light frequencies are coming from the universe to the consciousness of the individuals residing on the planet and the planet itself. So that is awakening everyone and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a lot of people who are really angry, well, maybe you'll have a lot of fires or floods if people are very emotional. The earth is just responding to the collective consciousness of emotion and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And the earth is how can we say, being harmonized with not only its solar system, but also with the universe itself, other galaxies, Milky Way. It's all coming into alignment. And that's part of what's happening at the moment. It's a very big thing within the universe, which is why so many souls chose to be living on Earth at this time. So if you want to help, pay a little attention to loving the plants that you grow, the animals that are around you, the sky that you look at, even if it's raining. Pay a bit of attention to say thank you to Mother Earth every day in some way. Not the same way every day, because then it becomes mechanical. It's like, I brushed my teeth this morning, but I've forgotten that I brushed my teeth this morning, and I didn't really care about my teeth. I didn't really acknowledge them. I just brushed them. If you don't connect with the child, it doesn't flourish. If you don't connect with the earth, it doesn't flourish. If you don't connect with yourself, it doesn't flourish. So if every morning you woke up and you said, oh, I love myself, yes, I love myself, but you didn't really feel it, or it's just automatic, it's not going to really have an effect. Then if you sit for a moment, take a breath, Close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, feel your heartbeat, and recognize what an amazing job your body is doing for you to walk, talk, create a meal. Your hair, your fingernails, all growing. It's fascinating. To take a moment to recognize the vehicle in which is housing your beautiful soul, but to honestly do that. It's the same with children. If you say hello to your child, how was your day, and you're not even looking at them, they feel ignored. They know you're not paying attention. They don't feel loved or connection. But if you stand in front of the child, look them straight in the eyes, breathe with them and say, how was your day? They'll talk to you. They'll get excited.
Mm-hmm.
They'll want to share with you. So your body's the same. If you talk to it, the earth is the same. If you recognize it, it gets excited. It wants to connect. So many people are feeling disconnected at the moment. It's because they're not connecting themselves. So we would say, if you are in alignment with yourself, you have absolutely nothing to worry about with finances. Whatever's going on with the world will be fine. You've got nothing to worry about with, let's say, terrorism taking over, a war happening, nuclear threat. You're getting dragged into those scenarios to take you away from the oneness, to keep you in separation. That's the game. And there may be many that look at you and say, oh, what an ignorant person. They're in complete denial. They've got their head in the ground. They've got no idea this. Why aren't they angry about this? Why aren't they frustrated? Why aren't they? Because they know getting angry and frustrated only fuels that energy on the planet and that separation. What you're concerned about is not the present moment, it's the future. So you're either living in the past with all of your past lives, your ancestral and your childhood, and reacting from that, or you're fearful of the future. In that moment, you cannot create a thing. How can you be productive and change the planet if you're not in the current time space? That creates separation, it creates division. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to clean up everything and be completely shiny. It just means to acknowledge that a little bit each day. Yes, I'm worried about that. That's because of da-da-da. I'm acknowledging that. I'm accepting that. I understand that. So I'm going into the future now and I'm thinking about that. Oh, that's great. I'll just leave that there and say, well, I'm trusting that won't happen. Or I'm trusting another road will come to me. So rather than expecting a fight and a hard situation, trust, oh, okay, well, actually, I'm honestly feeling calm at this moment, so I have to trust that tomorrow I'll be calm too. Because you can only create today what you want tomorrow. You have to be a vibrational match to what it is that you want. And if your vibration is in the past, in fear, or pain, or separation, or low self-worth, or etc., and it's also in the future, if it's not in the past, it's in the future, in fear of what might happen, what could happen, and what you would like other people to do, then you're not really in a vibrational match to what it is that you want, because you're separated. And this is about unity consciousness, which is why you're all being pushed to work on your past.
Mm-hmm.
You've been educated to be separate. Always set goals, always be in the future, map it all out, plan it all out. If I do this, then he will do that. And then he'll think this, and I'll get the response that I want. It's in the future. And most of the time it doesn't happen. Oh, why didn't it happen? You can't have love with manipulation. So this year, it's very important to have a vibrational match to where you want to be. And yes, there is going to be turbulence, a lot of it. But if all of you join in the turbulence, it'll get a lot worse. So many of you will find yourselves holding the energy, not understanding why. You're just holding the energy. You're holding space. You're holding space for other souls, for the planet, for the universe. You may find yourself having to separate from all the people you know and hold space for a while because it's your turn, not because that's going to be your life's history, but because it's your turn. Everybody has a time of holding space. Everyone has a time of being in action and creating. Sometimes you're just holding space. And many of you will be called to do that. To be silent. To hold the space of peace. So that others' consciousness can feel that and choose to go into that peace or to source it out. So everything will go into upheaval. Those 5 families, lots will be exposed. People will be in shock, horror. Think of it as a release. A release from the consciousness. Releasing yourself from collective consciousness is also extremely important at the moment. Be mindful where you're falling into other people's realities that's not in a vibrational match to yours. So we feel that this has come to an end. We've spoken enough.
Mm-hmm.
So we will leave you in our love and our light and our truth and our blessings. And we thank you for allowing us to make this communication today. Goodbye.
Bye.